Everyone, thank you for being here tonight. We're here for City Council meeting, and it is Monday, February 6th, 2023. We'll start this meeting with a roll call and determination of quorum.
Nordstrom.
Here.
Solomon. Roberts. Stroman. Armstrong. Jones.
Here.
Lehman. Ham. Evans. Roseland. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Tonight's invocation will be by Pastor Scott Wiley, and following the invocation will be the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. God of justice and mercy, we just thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of our city. We pray, God, that you'd help us to act with character and conviction, help us to listen with understanding and goodwill, help us to speak with clarity and restraint. Give us a spirit of service and unity. Remind us that we're stewards of your authority, and guide us to be the leaders that your people need. Help us to see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us, to treat all persons, no matter how weak or poor, with the reverence your creation deserves. And finally, Father, renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build a community beneficial to all citizens. And we ask this in the precious name of Christ. Amen.
Next on the agenda, we have the adoption of the agenda. Would there be a motion from the council? Move approval. Motion to approve by Pat Jones. Second by Lehman. All in favor of adoption of the agenda, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Now, item number 1 on this agenda, we have a presentation on the Housing Trust Fund by Liz Hamburg.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Liz Hamburg. I'm the CEO of the Black Hills Area Community Foundation, and I wanted to give you an update. We received vision funds in 2021. I wanted to let you know what we're doing with those dollars. As a grant maker, we sure like to know what our grantees are doing with the funds that they receive, so I wanted to give everybody an update tonight. Let me start here. Going back to just the housing needs that we have in Rapid City, and I know that Laura Jones with Elevate Rapid City has provided a presentation about the most recent study that was done. Laura is here tonight as well. I also want to introduce Chris Huber on my team with the Community Foundation. He's been very involved with this trust fund work as well. You'll see from this slide that a one-bedroom apartment right now is over $1,100 average rent. Vacancy rates are below where they need to be, and communities across the Black Hills are struggling to provide single-family housing and multifamily housing. I wanted to create a definition as to who's doing what. When we started this housing work, we had hired David Lust as a consultant to really take the leadership role and figure out how we can do things better, drive change, look at policy, look at funding, look at all different kinds of things. And after David passed away, things have kind of shifted out. We've got a position, Elevate Rapid City has hired a coordinator, housing and community development manager, which is Laura. And Laura, her role is to really talk about the public policy issues and do the advocacy within the pillar of Elevate Rapid City, interfacing with the city or the county or the state housing authority in that regard. She also works with us she chairs our trust fund advisory group and helps us to make the decisions as to how funding should be distributed. And then also gathering data about needs that we have in the Black Hills. With the Black Hills Area Community Foundation, our role primarily is to manage the dollars. So we house and manage the Strategic Housing Trust Fund for Rapid City. And we also work in growing those dollars, investing those dollars. There's oversight by our board of directors when something comes from the advisory group. And we also work with the nonprofits and those that are serving those that are in the housing. We try to connect them with services. So, just to talk a little bit about housing, the Housing Trust Fund. I think I missed a slide there. There we go. Here's what a Housing Trust Fund is. One of the things we learned with David's work and in working with Common Bond is that many other communities have housing trust funds to support the development of lower income housing. It's really a pool of money that's used to incentivize development for below market rate housing. What we're doing with those dollars is providing low interest loans for the development of multifamily housing, multifamily inventory. We are designed to be the top of the capital stack. We are really a sliver in the whole project, 5% or less of the whole project, but it is enough at a low interest rate to allow for development and help that developer keep those rents at a below market rate. A lot of the projects that we work on so far, everything is also using funds from the South Dakota Housing Development Authority and some of the tools that they have available. Any sort of project starts with an application process that goes to the advisory board, and the advisory board reviews those applications, works with those developers, and then makes a recommendation to the Black Hills Area Community Foundation for approval. The funds that are held with us can be coming from city, county, they can be charitable dollars. We have received several grants from foundations that have helped to support this fund, and we also have individual donors that like the thought of contributing to affordable housing and have been regular contributors to these funds. But it's a revolving fund. The dollars are paid back, and then we will deploy those dollars again. The purpose of the dollars is to have that revolving asset to continue to contribute to the housing, to address the housing needs. And here's this just a little bit of a graphic as to how this works, coming through the advisory board of community members to our board, and then to the development of the housing, and then the dollars get back into the fund. With the trust fund, every $1 million, based on what we have in the works right now, represents about 65 units of under market housing. Since it is a perpetual fund, this fund will continue to grow and make investments throughout Rapid City. Let me back up one second. Last year, here we go. We did receive the HUD Secretary Award last year for public-private partnerships, which was pretty exciting with the creation of this Housing Trust Fund. There were 5 awards nationally, and we were thrilled that Rapid City was recognized with one of them. This is the advisory group as it has been so far. There will be some adjustments to this. There are a couple new additions. Darren Haar will be leaving the advisory board as a developer, but R.C. Skull will be joining the group. And then we will also be adding Elizabeth Ziegelmeyer from my board of directors. She's a retired banker. So let me tell you where we are. These are some of the projects that are up and running right now. Common Bond Communities, this represents, between these 3 projects, 262 new units below market. The Common Bond Communities project is the Radiant. That is scheduled to open late summer. $550,000 loan went to Common Bond at 2% over 6 years, and it's with a balloon at the end of 6. It's interest only. We are receiving interest payments. 30 of those units are going to be below market, and they were also a project that was awarded CDBG dollars. So that is also a part of the stack in putting this together. Another exciting project is Blue Line Development, Sagebrush Flats. This is a development company out of Missoula, Montana, and we will be lending them $1.5 million at 2% over 16 years with a balloon at the end, interest only, and the interest will begin at the time the dollars go out the door, but the payments won't start until the apartments are put in service. The exciting part of this is 179 units, and they are all going to be at 60% of area median income. Right now we have a commitment letter that's been approved and executed. I know that they are applying for a TIF, and we are anxiously awaiting the master subordination agreement to lay out all of the different funding components for that project. And then our third is Lloyd Companies, Springs Edge. This is 41 units. We're going to be lending them $1.2 million at 2% over 16 years. And this aligns, both of these projects align the 16 years with the dollars that they're receiving from the South Dakota Housing Development Authority. But this project, we were excited about this one because some of these units are very low income, 50% of AMI. And in that case, we do have the commitment letter approved and executed as well. Capitalizing the fund, of course, we got $5 million from the city vision funds, and that was an incredible launch pad for this work. The John T. Vakurich Foundation also contributed $5 million. We have a $1 million commitment from the Dakota Charitable Foundation. We've received we will receive the second half of that this year. And then, of course, other donations from businesses and individuals. The Bush Foundation has been our partner through a lot of this work. They have funded some of the collective impact work, some of the housing studies. They've been a real supporter of us investigating this housing process and helping us to direct our work. We're really thrilled right now because they've chosen our community foundation as a major investment. This is the first major investment the Bush Foundation has made outside of the Twin Cities. So it's very exciting. We've received $2 million, which is a loan, to be paid back over 15 years at 0.5%. So we'll be able to take those dollars as well and lend those through the trust fund. All of these dollars for the Bush Foundation need to be invested in qualified census tracts. And I know the last time I was here, the council approved a rezone for Elmington Development Company and some work that they were doing. That in order to make housing more accessible and incent that in qualified census tracts. The Bush Foundation's also given us grant to support our capacity building. So we contribute from the Community Foundation. We do contribute to Elevate Rapid City for the housing position. We contribute to the housing studies that take place, and it will give us more dollars to work with over the next 15 years. I was with Jen Ford Reedy last week, had a cup of coffee with her on Friday, and they are very excited about this investment. It's a project where, she said, it doesn't always happen where the dollars that are invested at the beginning we continue to grow and see that the ideas that have come out of this work are really going to make a difference. And they are excited about this, and they'd love to see the Housing Trust Fund model grow throughout their footprint. We've also had some conversations with the Ellsworth Development Authority about the housing needs that we will see when the B-21 comes. And we're working with them to create a separate housing trust fund for the Ellsworth area for Box Elder. We've also had several conversations with other cities in the Black Hills who are looking at potentially having a trust fund with us to duplicate this kind of a model with their own advisory board, their own dollars, but basically copying what we're doing here in Rapid City. This is the housing plan that Sarah Hansel worked really hard on in 2021, and I just wanted to point out that within that document, again, this is on the city website. It was presented to council, but I don't believe it's been approved by council. But the Housing Trust Fund was one of the strategies to address our affordable housing needs. We're just number 2 on that list. And we're thrilled that we've got that working and up and running. And we're very hopeful that some of the other components, and some of these may have already been taken care of as well, I'm just not sure. But there are other ways where Rapid City can invest some time and dollars in policy changes or additional efforts that can help promote affordable housing and help to keep people housed. And that's what I've got. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions? Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Liz, for this great presentation. So, first question out of the box is, can we get this slide deck?
Sure.
I think there's some details in there that I'd like to review a little bit further. Mm-hmm. What I'm also interested in is the MAC portion, the military advisory part of this. Tell me again the package that will be going out to the military folks. What is it, CIDITA, that's getting this?
Well, essentially, we're working with the Ellsworth Development Authority, with Scott Langeth and the city of Box Elder. What we would do is set up a separate trust fund at the Community Foundation with dollars that they would help to bring in, and then we'd use those dollars very, very similar to what we're doing with Rapid City.
Very good. And then the last question I have here is the state money coming down to us yet, has that tranche been released yet?
That 200 million, is that
Yes.
those are specifically for infrastructure?
Yeah.
And those will be going to the South Dakota Housing Development Authority. They have a
Yes.
process in place for development to apply for those dollars. And unless, Laura, do you have any more to add to that? Yeah, that's where we know it is right now.
Very good. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, Liz, and for all your work on this and making sure that the Vision Fund dollars are used wisely, which is great to hear. Can you remind us, do you only do affordable housing projects, or do you do all types of housing projects?
Just under market.
Under market.
80% of area median income and under are the only projects that we would entertain with the trust fund dollars.
And, you know, one thing that has occurred to me is, you know, we focus probably a lot on apartments and probably some smaller single residential units. But are we looking at mobile home parks and things like that? Are we looking at any modular? I mean, you can get a lot of bang for your buck, and they're really well built if you put them in the right, outside of the floodplains, if you put them in the right place. Are we looking at some locations like that? Have you heard of any developments along those lines?
You know, there are a lot of exciting things going on around the country with mobile homes, with the, you know, the purchase and renovation of a hotel motel into, you know, studio units there. And we've had, as an advisory group, we've had a lot of different conversations about that. Up until this point, you know, we're looking at the dollars that we've got to work with, and they're pretty big loans that are going out the door. So we're a bit limited as to what we can do with those. But yes, those are part of the conversation. Mobile homes are part of the conversation for sure.
It's good. It's good to have a mix, and whatever the most bang for your buck is, you know, as long as it's a quality home. And I always think that's a missing part of the conversation. But I'm glad to hear that it's not missing from your conversation. So thank you.
Laura Armstrong.
Thank you, Ms. Hamburg, for accepting my offer to come and present to us this evening. I think this was very informative. And Mr. Huber and Mrs. Jones, thank you for your work that you do. I also want to extend my gratitude to this body for thinking outside of the box. We are really at a critical point with housing in our community, and we know that having a safe housing is critical to education, public safety, and overall quality of life. So thank you. I would like to challenge the other recipients who have received Vision funds as well to come forward and be transparent and let us know where we are. Some of these projects do not happen overnight. There's a lot of work that we do not see. So I just wanted to put it out there, and thank you all for what you do in our community.
Thank you.
Greg Stroman.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Liz, for your presentation and for your work on this. I just had out of curiosity, you mentioned projects, the Radiant and Sagebrush Flats and Springs Edge. Can you tell me generally where they are?
Yes. The Radiant is near Wellfully. In fact, you can see that building. It's going to be finished this summer, and they'll be starting to lease. Actually, early in the summer, they're going to be setting up a leasing office, I believe, at One Heart. But that is just off of Omaha. Sagebrush Flats is off of Omaha as well, near the car dealerships. There's a big plot of land there. The Lloyd project is in the southern part of town, where the Walmart, near that area. It's not exactly near Walmart, but it's in that southern part of the city.
Great, thank you. I yield.
Pat Jones.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Liz, just a couple of questions, if you don't mind, for clarity. That went by kind of quick. There's a tremendous amount of information there. You said something about 80% of median income?
Area median income.
Okay, and what's that number?
It's about 50,000, correct? I'm looking at Laura just for verification because she's got the housing study, but it's about 50,
And
55,000.
that's household income? Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And then there was something about 60% AMI. What was that?
So that would be someone that's making 60% of that, or a household that has that is earning 60% of that 55,000-ish number.
And what does the AMI stand for?
Area median income.
Area median income. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, that's all the questions we have tonight from the council. Thank you, Liz. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the general public comment. This is a time for members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at this meeting on any issue not on the agenda, except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. We have a few speaker request forms tonight, and before we get started, the speakers should know you all have 3 minutes, and you can gauge your time by looking at these lights up here to see how you're doing. And we'll start off with Paul Peerboom. Are you John? Okay, John Burke.
Hello, I've been a Rapid City resident for 50-some years. I live on South Street. I've lived there for 45 years. I'm here because of a skunk problem. I've trapped 7 skunks in the last 6 weeks, 7 skunks in the last 6 weeks in my backyard. And my neighbor 2 houses down had a trap out for a few days, and she caught the biggest skunk that the animal control people had ever seen. Now, 1 skunk might be a nuisance, and 2 skunks might be a problem, but 8 skunks is a public health menace. The Department of Health Department in Minnesota tested skunks for 10 years, and over that 10-year period, they found that half of the skunks had rabies. And so I don't know what it's going to take for the city to help us out. I want the city to hire a professional trapper and to eliminate the skunk problem that we have in this town. And we're not the only neighborhood that has the problem. We're right downtown. I can see the Dahl Tower from my back window. And so it's been suggested twice that we deter the skunks from our yards. So where are we going to deter these skunks? Are we going to deter them 2 houses down or 2 blocks down? All you do is you just pass that problem on to somebody else. So I guess the big thing is it going to take a pet then to be in a skunk fight and get bitten by a rabid skunk, and that the family then has to get rid of their pet, and the kids in the family might have to end up getting rabies shots? So there's a definite problem, and I want the city to help us out in our neighborhood. Questions?
Thank you very much for being here. Next is Andrew Ironshell.
Good evening, relatives. Good evening, Steve. A while back, Steve wrote a letter about me to visit Rapid City, and he complained that I wore a mask and that I take Facebook pictures with legal firearms. I don't have any of that tonight, Steve, so you can keep your fragility in your pocket. But I am here to talk about violence, right? Like he said I was violent, and he said that people shouldn't come to my place of employment because he thought I was a violent person. That was his personal opinion. You should show him the letter, Steve. 4 Native Americans have died because of gun violence since January 1st. 2 of those, we believe as Native community, are at the hands of law enforcement. So I'm glad that they're in the room tonight so they can at least hold some piece of accountability from the public. We're very concerned about gun violence in this town. It just isn't your problem, it's our problem. It belongs to all of us that live here, and I do live here now. My children are in school here, I work here, I play here. This is Lakota territory, so I'm not going anywhere. There's no de-escalation tactics by this police department of Rapid City. There seems to be a target on our back, you know. I take, for example, the man that was taken into custody at Walmart for shooting a gun in the Walmart parking lot, a non-Indian who was taken peacefully and nicely, and yet we hear of a young man who they say was coming at law enforcement with a gun. The videos and the people that were on scene say he was running. He took a bullet to the back of the head. So I don't know how law enforcement could say that he was running towards them and seeking to cause them bodily harm. You as city officials should examine those things. Don't accept the reports that are given in the middle of the night on YouTube from RCPD as truth. You know, on the scanner they said, we have to get our stories together. And then they came out an hour later with this false narrative that this young man was attacking them. So we're watching you. For those of you who don't know what Rapid City versus Racism means, you should come by the Indian Collective and visit with me. I'd be happy to visit with you. Even you, Steve. Come and visit us. Talk to us. We're part of your community as well. We're building a school here. We're building business here. We're uplifting all community here. Something we should all do as citizens.
That's time. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the requests we have for general public comment tonight. Now on to non-public hearing items 2 through 60. There are no speaker requests on these items, so we'll go directly to consent items 2 through 55. Would the council like to pull any of these items? Bill Evans.
I'd like to pull 32 and 48, please.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Items 30 and 36. Thank you, Mayor.
Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to pull item 51, please.
Greg Stroman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull number 46, please.
Okay, any others? If not, then I would seek a motion to approve the consent items with the exception of 30, 32, 36, 46, 48, 51. Motion by Armstrong, second by Evans. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Down then to item 30. Approve requests from RESPEC for a variance to waive the requirement to install a sidewalk along Jet Drive in Rapid City per ordinance 12.08.060. Go to Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll have to vote no on this one, with all due respect to the folks at RESPEC. And the reason I'm saying that is because of the attachments that we have from a group called Live Well Black Hills. And if you get a chance to read those two attachments, that'll explain the reasons why I cannot support this denial of the sidewalk. I believe we need sidewalks within the city, and especially within the city limits. And then I also heard from the Public Works committee meeting that there was a potential of some kind of an agreement to be worked out if the rest of the neighborhood would be considerate of a sidewalk program, policy, something along that line, and I can stand to be corrected on that. But when that takes place, I'd like to see that opportunity for additional sidewalk in this area. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. We're not debating these items right now. We're so let's see, 36, Richie Nordstrom. I'm sorry, wait, 32, Bill Evans. 32 is approved city logo. Okay. Why?
The way it's always
Sounds like game night at my house. Everyone's yelling at me. Okay. All right, 30. Item 30. Then, all in favor, well,
You want to read it in, and then I'll make a motion?
I read it in.
I'll make a motion to approve the variance then.
Okay, sorry about that. We have a motion from Roberts to approve, second by Lehman. All in favor of that motion to approve, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. No. 2 noes. We have a motion, item 30 is approved with noes from Nordstrom and Armstrong. Okay. Item 32, approve city logo. Go to Bill Evans.
I want to make a motion to table this particular item.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for tabling. There's no discussion on a tabling motion, so all in favor of a motion to table the new city logo, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. 1 no. Motion carries then to table this item with 1 no from Nordstrom. Okay? Done. All right, item 32 is off. Item 36, request authorization for mayor and interim finance director to sign a 3-year contract for professional services with Innovative Nonprofit in an amount up to $156,000 over the course of 3 years. Funding comes from the city's $2 million violence intervention grant, and that's Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make a motion to approve this authorization. See if it has
Second by Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may continue on. There was an interesting question, and I think it needs to hear the answer once again. So if I can call upon Jess, if you could help me out here with this. I think the question had to do with the Second Amendment, and you answered it very, very well. I would like to have you repeat that comment that was made about the Second Amendment concern off of this issue. Could you address that again?
Jamie Kirsch.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. This Community Violence Intervention and Prevention Initiative grant has nothing to do with the Second Amendment right. It's really just focused on supporting young people who are impacted by violence in our community and ensuring that they can break those cycles of violence.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. And then there was one additional item that is added on as an attachment that it was what is called a readout from the White House. And I think it was important for that the citizens of Rapid City see that Rapid City was present at the White House for that conversation, and I think that was the impetus to get this whole thing started. And so I wholeheartedly support this as one of the tools in the toolbox that can move us forward on this. Any other additional comments that you had, Ms. Kirsch?
Yes, just to mention that, yes, we've been involved with the White House initiative for the past year, and this grant was awarded to us as a result of participating in that effort. So thank you for bringing that to the attention of the council.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor. I yield.
Okay, we have a motion to approve item 36. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 48. 46. This is a consent calendar, just so you know. Item 46. Approve purchase from Musco Sports Lighting LLC for sports lighting poles and fixtures for Sioux Park tennis courts with Sourcewell contract pricing in the amount of $231,000. Greg Stroman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve, and if I can get a second, retain the floor.
Second by Solomon. Go ahead.
May I address?
Yes, you may.
Director Biegler, can you explain what we're doing here with the, we're approving the purchase of the lighting for the Sioux Park renovation. Can you go into a little bit more detail?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. As you recall, a couple of meetings ago, you approved the larger contract for the renovation of the Sioux Park tennis courts. This project came in a little bit above the budget, so we had to do what we could to approve that main contract. And one of the things that we did was to bid the lighting, the sports lighting separately. That way we could take advantage of a considerable amount of savings and be able to complete this project. So what this is doing is purchasing these, the Musco lighting system directly from Musco, using a Sourcewell Purchasing Alliance contract that's in place already. They will be shipping the poles out to our site, and they will be installed as part of the construction project that is ongoing right now.
And is this the same lighting that was part of the original Vision Fund application?
It is, yes.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have. I yield.
Laura Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor. May I make a request for Director Biegler, please?
Yes.
Could you give us a 30-second recap of this Sioux Park project that just kind of got underway this weekend and the chronology? You shared that at our Legal and Finance meeting.
Yes, I would be happy to. Thank you. And thank you for the Dr. Bigler. Yes, this is a project that was just awarded, and they received their notice to proceed last Friday. So they started fencing the area off and removing some of the court and the fencing. And so they are under construction right now. Actually, this part is the demo part of the construction project. It is to be completed around November of this coming year, of this year, 23. So it will be out of commission for play for the entire season of 23. It will be back in shape for the new year, for 2024. So it'll be a brand new facility, new courts, new fencing, new lighting, new site furnishings. It's going to be quite a project.
And any tennis players can go?
We still have courts at Parkview Park. We have courts, at least for a while, at Wilson Park. Those courts are going to be converted into pickleball courts around the first part of July. Those will be ready for play, for pickleball play. So until then, they're still available as tennis courts. And we also have
Quarry Park?
Quarry Park
Ward
has
5.
courts as well, correct.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we have a motion to approve item 46. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 48, if it's all right with everyone, would be authorize mayor and interim finance director to acknowledge the city's consent of the assignment of the development agreement between the city and C.R. Lloyd Associates for the construction of a mixed-use development to Block 5 LLC. Bill Evans.
I'm going to explain for like the 15th time why I'm going to vote against this again. I'm not a fan of this particular plan, and I know it's probably going to pass, but I at least want the people to know why I'm opposed to it. I don't like the fact that this consists of apartments, rentals only. I believe part of the project should have been condos that are owned, because I believe that increases the possibility that it's always going to stay in very good shape. I don't believe that it includes enough parking places. Some of the other plans we saw actually replace the parking that was taken, from what I've been told, that this is barely going to replace, and you can correct me if you'd like, somebody replace the parking that is going to be needed for the facility there, and no additional parking. When this was approved initially about 3.5 years ago, and I was one of the first things I came to when I was on the council in the first term, it was given over to the project, and for 3 years we've waited for plans. I've seen the plan increase in quality, and it's much better than the first incarnation was, although I still don't believe it's where it could be. When I compare it with other projects, say the one that went on in Fargo with another 50-year-old vacant lot downtown. Also, I'm concerned that we were supposed to be breaking ground last July, And here we are 6 months later again, and nothing has happened, although I hear we're close to something happening. And what I heard at Legal Finance the other day concerns me a little bit. Financing is going to be secured after we sign over the project. Now, to me, that means this land that we're going to be giving to an out-of-town entity, that's another problem I have, giving away city property to people from out of town. I invited them to move their headquarters here last summer. That's not going to happen. It looks like if for some reason this was to default, our city land could all of a sudden be owned by some holding company or something somewhere else. And that is of major concern to me because it looks to me like this is collateral for securing the loan, and that bothers me a lot. So I just want the people of the city to know why I'm opposed to this particular arrangement. Thank you.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make a motion to approve this item, and if we get a second, retain the floor.
Is there a second? Pat Roseland. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to emphasize that this is a good project and looking forward to seeing it come up out of the ground. I think we can argue that it is a good project, and if there is some counter arguments to that, I think you can always find that with any project that is taking place within Rapid City. But for me, there was so many people that put so many hours of work into this. If I start naming names, I'll leave somebody off the list because there are so many people that are involved in this. And I know when the mayor first introduced this idea, if it was really 3 years ago, I don't recall exactly what day it was, but we had several bids to come in on this project, and 3 of them that were actually worthwhile, and the top 2 came in, and the final decision was with Lloyd Company. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this project going forward. I've also gone to Sioux Falls to take a look at a similar project they did down there, and it looks like it would be worthwhile having something like this in Rapid City. And then I know there's other comments that I can make on this, but I'm really looking forward to seeing this project come out of the ground. So Luke, good luck. I think it'll happen. Mayor, if you've got anything to add to this, because you were the one that got this whole thing started, in my opinion, so.
I'll reserve comment on it, although I support it. Okay, Jesse Ham.
Question briefly, I'm sure that this has been covered at some point. Mr. Evans' concern about we as a city giving that land, is there some sort of caveat that I'm not aware of as far as if this falls through, do we have an opt-out?
Go to the city attorney.
There are protections in place if the project were to fall through, but I will say that this will be security for the loan. So the bank will also have an interest in the land. If, basically there's no way to do this without some risk. The banks are taking a risk, we're taking a risk, Lloyd is taking a risk. There's some level of risk. 2 financial institutions and multiple investors have looked at this and decided it was a good investment. At this point, I've been provided information on the financing. I've reviewed it. I had Tegra, who was our owner's rep on the Civic Center and also helped us get this project off the ground, and they do these kind of projects. I had them look over the financing, and while I cannot tell you there's no risk, I think the risk is low and is acceptable at this point, which is why I've agreed to and brought forward the transfer of the property.
Excellent, thank you. And I think it's of note that we, at this point, council, our decision, we'd have a lot of legal background work to do if we denied this at this juncture. Am I correct in saying that?
You're correct. I mean, the actual development agreement that the council already approved contemplated that this agreement would be assigned to an entity like this. So basically, if you did not have good cause to approve the transfer, that would likely put us in a legal bind.
Right. All right. Thank you. I yield.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve item 48. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. One no from Mr. Evans. Motion passes. Item 51. Approve to initiate an appraisal on the property regarding the request from Dr. Jeffrey Bent for the city to consider the purchase of approximately a 2-acre lot located at 3300 Campbell Street. Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure if this is a question for community development, but I see Vicky's not here, but we have Mr. Harrington in place, so maybe he can answer it. I had a series of questions at Legal and Finance Committee, which I appreciated. We had great answers to those about whether this property was strategic to the future use of Rapid City, whether the value was appropriate, and where our funding source would come from. And obviously what we decided to do was to try to see if we can get appraisals for that. But one of the questions I've been chewing on since then is why we're looking to purchase this property, because it seems to me that if the right-of-way is valuable enough that the city wants to purchase it and secure it, then it would be valuable enough for us to not vacate the right-of-way in order to keep it and then save the taxpayers $750,000 plus. So I'm not sure if you can speak to this, or perhaps other council members might have something to say about that. But it just seems to me if it's that valuable that we're going to buy it, then we have the right to not vacate the right-of-way to begin with and not have to worry about any of this at all and save the taxpayer money. So if it's valuable, shouldn't we just uphold what we have in ordinance? And if it's not, then we can vacate it, but then why would we buy it? I'm having a hard time logically. So I don't know if Mr. Harrington wants to take a stab at this or anybody else, but that's kind of, it's what I've been chewing on since then, and it's kind of unfair to have somebody, that's not Vicky, answer it, but that's kind of my open question. Maybe it's for anybody to answer.
Well, I have an answer that might help.
Okay.
A year and something ago, when we started talking about this, the plan from Dr. Bent was to sell both of these lots to a holiday store and to request a vacation of that right-of-way for that future road plan. That would have cut off a straight shot to the east for anyone coming to the hospital, would have required a roundabout way to get there. At that time, I expressed the importance of the city keeping that option, and it won't be for us sitting on this council, it'll be for a council or two from now. And at the time, from talking to a few council members and using my own judgment, I wasn't confident that the city council would protect that right-of-way for a future road, and all for what would be a gas station. So at that point, on a phone conversation, I expressed to Mr. Bent that it was important, even important enough that the city may be in a position to purchase it, to protect that right-of-way. The logic behind purchasing it is not that we would keep this lot forever, but that we could keep it until such time we could sell it and recoup our money, and then sell it with covenants that would disallow forfeiting that right-of-way for that street. So that's the, I think I answered some of your question at least.
So you're not so concerned about this council, it's securing it for whatever the future councils may be. But we have that's all over town. We have property for sale that maybe we would think a different use could be for. So was this just because it was brought up at the time and that's why we indicated that we would sell it or we would purchase it?
It's because there was a plan to approach council to vacate that right-of-way and do away with that portion of the future street plan.
And I did visit the site with the property owner at the time. Never made a promise, but I evaluated it and it's just been kind of one of those things that I wonder if it's that important why we wouldn't just not vacate it and not pay anything and let them sell it for whatever they want to sell it for.
Well,
But
all due respect, the council's support of long-term plans in the past have not indicated that this would be a slam dunk for the council to support this future road plan. And I thought that
This
that
is
risk.
insurance. This is an insurance policy. basically.
Insurance, this is, exactly, it's insurance. And it's not something that we're going to lose upwards of $1 million forever. We're going to park $1 million in that lot until such time that we can recoup it.
Right.
And
I have no doubt we could recoup it. That really wasn't the issue, is just trying to make logic of this, how this got on our agenda, and I've been, thinking through it, and I'm the one who said I want more than one appraisal. In fact, if we do a motion, I think we need multiple appraisals just to make sure we have a good value for that, because we're kind of throwing something in the dark in terms of value from the city, but I just want to make sure that that value is appropriate. And the other question we'll have to answer is where those funds are going to come from and what does not get done because this takes its place. So all questions, I think, for us to consider, but thank you, Mr. Mayor, for answering that question and taking Mr. Harrington off the hook on that.
Laura Armstrong.
Thank you. I was just going to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
Second by John Roberts. Bill Evans.
Well, I might add to what Jason's saying is, I think what makes it particularly expedient, a good business decision for Dr. Bent to sell this now to us is, with Holiday Station going in, there's going to be some road development there, and I'm pretty sure any good businessman isn't going to want to invest his money into that if he doesn't have to. And so if we take possession of it, I guess it would be our responsibility to do such. If we do eventually buy it, hopefully the sale price would reflect some of those improvements that we've had to make on that road. And so I think that's the reason it's coming up now. Might be wrong. I think the mayor is right that there's no guarantee that the right-of-way would be safe forever. We do have it now. In looking at it, I think it would totally be possible to put an overpass, an underpass. That is a critical east-west route for emergency vehicles. To get over a stalled train right now, we have to drive clear up to Elkvale Road, another mile to the east or to the south, and then cross over that way and then double back. I think with the development that's going on in Rapid Valley and further to the east, it's critical we open that and start thinking of building that emergency response route right now. It is directly in line with the hospital. It's very logical, but like the mayor said, there's no guarantee that the next council or whoever in the future would be logical, but I think they'd have to be pretty foolish not to understand that from a planning point of view. So, thank you.
Pat Jones.
Thank you very much, Mayor. A question for Public Works Director, Mr. Tech, please.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Dale, is there a long-term street plan or development plan that includes extending Fairmont to the east over the railroad tracks and around in some manner through there?
Yes, Fairmont Street is shown on our major street plan as a future connection there. So yes, it's been on the major street plan, I believe, for some time.
And going up over the railroad tracks, I assume?
Crossing the railroad tracks in some manner. I have had conversations with the railroad and the Federal Railroad Administration within the last year. They're not opposed to moving their rail yard somewhere else. So that, I think, might be a benefit to the community to maybe approach that in future years to see about moving their facility there to make it even easier to cross.
So it wouldn't necessarily have to be over. It could just be a railroad crossing that exists all over town right now?
It could be either. Certainly the preferred method would be a separated crossing, so we don't have delays, especially on an emergency route. So yeah, there's any manner of ways that we can cross that railroad.
And then where would that connect to as it goes to the east?
Ultimately, the first connection, major road, is South Valley Drive.
Okay. That's very interesting. Thank you.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to emphasize to the council that I can support this appraisal. I don't like the idea of they have to purchase it, but I think we need to have an appraisal of this property. I just want to remind the council that there is really in this section of the city, there's only real two corridors for getting from the east side of Rapid City to the hospital, for example, and that being Elkville Road or Catron Boulevard, and then the other one is St. Patrick Street. There's nothing in between, and we need to keep this right-of-way intact for allowances for the future development of that portion of Rapid City. And I think someone described it as one of the largest donut holes that we have in this area of Rapid City. And then if I may ask a question to Mr. Tech, please.
Yes.
Mr. Tech, if I understand the process, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that when we get into the, my understanding of the IDCM, if we purchase that property and there is a gas station that is built over there, and I'm asking a lot of hypotheticals here, but if that is completed in there, will the city and taxpayers, if we own that property, will the city and taxpayers have to pay for half of that road development?
Only if the property is further developed.
Yes, yes. Thank you. And then the possibility of moving the rail yard is pretty steep, but one of the things that I'm hoping to do is when I get an opportunity to visit with the National League of Cities and going to D.C. at the end of March, this was on my agenda to visit with them, our congressional delegation and the FRA as well. So if I can help or supplement any conversations that the Public Works Department is having with the FRA, I'd be glad to carry that message as well. Thank you. Mayor, I yield.
All right, Greg Stroman.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, as the discussion continues, I start to get more and more confused because it's been kind of a wide-ranging discussion. But the item on the agenda says that is the motion just to approve, to initiate an appraisal?
Non-consent items 56 and 57, there are no speaker requests, so we'll go to the introduction and first reading of ordinance number 6562, an ordinance changing the name of the Rapid City Human Relations Commission to the Rapid City Community Relations Commission, along with some miscellaneous cleanup of the ordinance by amending Chapter 2.64 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. Motion to approve Armstrong, second Nordstrom. We'll go to Pat Jones.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Question for City Attorney Landine.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I just would like a little clarification on and some miscellaneous cleanup of the ordinance. Can you give some examples of what that might be?
We changed the election date for officers. It was originally in the ordinance, it said the elections would be in October, but the terms of the commissioners expire in December. So I changed it to January, so the new commissioners would be in place. There was
please.
There was also a provision that required the mayor to consult with the MOA, the Minaluzan, Akola, Kichiapi ambassadors on appointments, but over the last year or so, I think it's become apparent that this was really more of a merger than of two separate organizations, so that provision no longer really seemed relevant, and so agreed to remove that.
Nothing that of a major item that this council or others in the future might be caught off guard about?
Not that I can think of.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Motion for approval, item 56. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Community development items, item 57, a request by KTM Design Solutions for Shepherd Hills Commons, LLC, for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed lots 1A and 1B of Block 7 of Shepherd Hills South Subdivision, generally described as being located at 2109 East Anamosa Street and Mickelson Drive, and the recommendation is to approve stipulations. Motion to approve stipulations by Lehman, second by Jones. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing items 58 through 65, there are no speaker requests on these items, so we will not have a we will not have a public hearing. So we'll start under consent, public hearing items 58 through 60. Would the council have a motion? Motion to approve by Armstrong. Second by Roberts. Motion then to approve 58 through 60. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Non-consent public hearing items. Item 61, second reading ordinance 6554, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. A request by KTM Design Solutions for Yasmin Dream 2 LLC for a rezoning from general agricultural district to low density residential district for property generally described as being located south of the intersection of Diamond Ridge Boulevard and Cadillac Drive. Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. First, if I may make a motion to approve approve this item, second reading. Get a second, retain the floor.
Second by Armstrong. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. The primary question I have on 3 of these items is there parks nearby or playgrounds nearby these properties? And I'm going to look to see if Mr. Harrington knows the answer for this.
I think he'd love to answer that one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Mr. Nordstrom, on item 61, this is located in the Diamond Ridge Boulevard Cadillac Drive area, and that's a rapidly developing residential network. This is 0.24 acres that is being rezoned to low-density residential 2 to allow for townhome development. There are currently no park facilities in the area. The closest facility is Star of the West Sports Complex, and that's a little over 2 miles away from this location. And I would defer to Director Beegler if there are any plans for any parks in the neighborhood.
Please?
Sorry, Dr. Beegler. I'm stand corrected.
Is it Dr. Beegler now?
Dr. Beegler, a comment?
No, we do not have any parks in that vicinity other than what Mr. Harrington mentioned.
Thank you, gentlemen. I would, I'm not going to make a motion to amend or anything like that, but I want to hopefully see in the future that we have some accommodations for parks and playgrounds, especially in this particular case when the next playground or park activity location is like 2 miles away. It would be beneficial for the neighborhood if they could get some kind of a recreational area. I have the same question for the next 2, so if the mayor will allow just some leniency, if it's a similar question with 62 and 63? Or do you want to take them separately?
Let's dispose of 61,
okay,
please.
Okay.
Bill Evans.
Well, I agree with Mr. Nordstrom that the lack of any sort of requirements that we have for parkland and or school locations is a real problem when it comes to city planning. And I wish we would come up with some sort of ordinance that gives our planning department some tooth so that when they say we're not going to approve this particular thing unless there is accessible parkland, that is a major component of city rankings when it comes to quality of life. And some cities have it down and others don't, and we're one of the ones that don't, despite all of our floodway and parkland, which is appreciable. People need neighborhood parks for children to play in. And I think it's time we came up with an ordinance that mandates such things. As the city grows faster and faster, this seems to be something that has been ignored a little bit, and we're at the leisure of the developer to maybe provide out of the goodness of their hearts school land and parkland. So I think it's time we develop such an ordinance. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to approve item 61. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 62, second reading ordinance 6557, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. A request by Substance Architecture for NDN Holdings for a rezoning request from low-density residential to low-density residential District 2 for property generally described as being located at 315 Wright Street. Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may, the same question for Mr. Harrington, if there's a park nearby or some kind of a playground facility.
Kip Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Mr. Nordstrom, this is located on Wright Street, which is in the general vicinity of both College Park, directly to the south, and then Horace Mann Park is somewhat to the southwest of this. And this is a rezone from low-density residential 1 to low-density residential 2 to allow for some duplex development and increase the housing density in this area.
So it is within walking distance?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
It depends on how you define walking distance.
Okay, can we have a motion on item 62, please?
Second.
To approve Evans, second by Lehman. All in favor of approval of 62, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 63, second reading ordinance 6558, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. A request by KTM Design Solutions for Yasmin Dream 3 for a rezoning request from medium-density residential district to public district for a property generally described as being located southeast of the intersection of East Philadelphia Street and East Anamosa Street. Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, you may. Kip Harrington.
Yes, make the motion to approve and, yes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Ham. Go ahead.
Same question, Mr. Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Nordstrom. This is a rezoning from medium-density residential to public to build a utility lot and to build a water booster station on this property.
Good.
This is located in the Shepherd Hills neighborhood. I don't believe there are any plans for any parks, but there are some significant portions of open space that are being constructed as part of their Shepherd Hills master plan.
Thank you. I yield.
Okay. We have a motion and a second for approval of 63. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 64, second reading ordinance 6559, and ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. A request by Eric Waddleson and John Samuelson for a rezoning request from general commercial district to office commercial for property generally described as being located northwest of the intersection of Mount Rushmore Road and Golden Eagle Drive. Motion to approve Solomon, second Roberts. All in favor of approval of item 64, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 65, second reading, ordinance 6560, and ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. A request by FMG Engineering for Fifth Park LLC for a rezoning request from general commercial district to office commercial district for property generally described as being located at 4908 Fifth Street.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve Lehman. Second Nordstrom. All in favor of approving 65 say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we need a motion for an executive session to discuss the qualifications, competence, performance, character, or fitness of a public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee, and to consult with legal counsel about proposed or pending litigation and contractual matters pursuant to STCL 1-25-2, subsections 1 and 3.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Evans, second Lehman, to go into executive session. All in favor say aye. Aye. We are in executive session. we have a motion to come out of executive session? Second? Second. Any objection? Okay, we're out of executive session, everyone. I'm also informed that no actions required following the executive session. And so that'll take us on to item 66 on the agenda, the bill list, and we'll go to Interim Finance Director Tracy Davis.
There is one addition to the bill list to pay Black Hills Container $13,200. So the new grand total is $8,608,694.93.
Motion to approve, Solomon. Second, Lehman. All in favor of approving the bill list, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to adjourn, Armstrong, second, Lehman. Everyone say aye. Aye. We're adjourned. They sell